This week on Decoding Wisdom, I'm joined by someone who's rewriting the script on what's possible. Xara Jetly. She's a professional cricketer from New Zealand who plays for the Wellington Blaze. And she's one of the most mentally composed athletes I've ever come across. Whether that's true or not, we'll wait to find out. But this episode goes way beyond cricket. We dive into mindset, adversity, self-awareness, and what it really takes to perform at the highest level while staying grounded. Whether you're an athlete, a creator, or just someone trying to level up, this one's going to hit home for you. So with that, enjoy the episode. Xara Jetly, welcome to Decoding Wisdom.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty busy. How's it going with you?
Yeah, life's been hectic, but it's good.
I
I
can
love it.
imagine.
I do it to myself.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to do this. And I feel like the viewers are going to get so much out of this episode, just giving you a journey, what you've been through. And I'm so excited to do this as well.
So
Awesome.
and nervous.
The first thing I want to decode is your name. Why is it Xara with an X? Where's that come from?
Oh my goodness. This actually, what a fantastic story this is. Nah, it's not. I was unnamed for about 4 days, I think 3-4 days. And my dad's driving to the hospital and sees Zara spelled with an X at the back of like a license plate of a car and goes, yeah, I want to name her Zara, but with an X. And that's my story. How beautiful is that?
Wow. The permutations I'd cooked up in my head for this answer was Eastern Europe, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
something else.
Something real cool and
Yeah.
real. Nah, there's no backstory. I
A
think
license plate it
my
is.
my dad is awesome human being, but I think he wanted to name me Zara with a Z initially, and then my mum and him had a conversation. We're like, we need X because I think she's got X factor. So there was that whole element too. So there was actually like a proper conversation around that, which I love. I like to think that maybe it's my destiny, but we'll see.
Given the path you're on, I'm assuming it is, I guess. I don't know.
We're trying. We're trying.
That's awesome. What I want to get to is your origin story to begin with, right? Growing up in Wellington, how did your love for cricket come about?
Yeah, I have always been quite sporty, I think, from day one. So my first word was literally ball. And all I would do was kick a football, throw a ball around at kindergarten. It's kind of just written all over. We had like little kindergarten reports, and I was always described as a lot of energy, can't concentrate, and very sporty. So I guess at a young age, it's always just been a part of me. Playing sports. So I was a netballer to start. Mum kind of was like, you're going to be the next best netballer for New Zealand. And then at 13 got told I was quite short and I probably won't make it. So that was pretty disappointing. But yeah, with, where did cricket come from? I think I played basketball, swimming, netball, indoor cricket. And indoor cricket, I met Robbie Kerr, who kind of looked at me and went, oh, wow, you're pretty good. We're going to chuck you into the under 13 representative side and the under 15s and see kind of, what goes on from there. So that's kind of where my cricket came from and why I'm where I am today.
And Robbie Kerr was a coach?
Robbie Kerr is Amelia Kerr's dad.
Oh,
I'm not too sure.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. So, yeah, Millie Kerr and Jess Kerr's dad.
Mhm.
So he's very like heavily affiliated with the indoor cricket scene in Wellington.
Yeah.
And so he just happened to be there while I was playing for my brother's team.
Understood. Okay. So for context for the listeners, Amelia Kerr is a cricketer who plays for New Zealand, the White Ferns.
Mm-hmm.
And does her sister play as well?
Yes.
Oh, they both
yeah,
play for New
both
Zealand.
of them.
That's pretty sweet. But
It's so cool.
yeah, taking it back to you were 13 when I remember we had this chat earlier where you got told off by your netball coach about being too short.
Yeah.
To provide a bit more context, what happened there?
I was invited to a regional, I think we we're getting selected for a Wellington representative netball setup. And I think I was in year 8 from memory. and I was, trialing for center wing attack. So that's kind of all over the show, right? And I had come off and I was very nervous. So this is the first time where I probably felt like I was put under the most pressure. And, it didn't necessarily go my way, which really sucked. But I had pretty much a coach. I went to the coach and I said, look, I want feedback. I want to be a better player. I care about netball. And they said, look, like, your height doesn't help.
Ruthless.
And I was like, awesome. Anything constructive? Not much constructive criticism or feedback came my way. And, me and my mum had a proper conversation about it. And mum said, look, like, Xara, you're a gifted athlete and you're meant for something, and meant for a sport. So we need to figure out what that sport is. And we'll go from there. But I'm very, I reckon I'm the luckiest human being. It's a sad story, but I love that ended up not being for me. I actually love that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think which adult goes to a 13-year-old and calls them too short. Mate, there's puberty pending. Do you know what I mean? Like, what about that?
I mean, I don't know. I think from memory, I look in the moment, I thought, oh yeah, okay, fine. Like, it is what it is. But as I've like kept talking about it to people, I realized that was pretty mean.
It is. And I tell you what, like, when I was playing, when I was, I think, 14 or 15, I had a pretty intense chat with one of my coaches, and he got me good. Like, I went into this, essentially what it was got told I'm good enough to be in the squad for the UAE under 16s. So this is age group stuff for the country. And then we sort of we impressed him so much, they're like, hey, maybe he's good for under 19s as well as a backup player.
Yeah.
And then there was like this, and I was 15 at that point. And they went on saying, hey, this one coach specifically was like, yeah, you're in. You've impressed like the head coach so much, or like the committee.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm in. Good. Turns out didn't get in. And it was a long shot, right? Because I trialed for the under 16s, but then you had the under 19s, and I was like, okay, that's a bonus. But then when you don't get it as a competitive player, you're like, oh no, why didn't I get it? So then he's like, yeah, you're just not good enough, or like, I was like, wait, that's being a hypocrite. You just flipped the script, right? So I was 15, and I took it very, very heavily. And I was like super depressed for the next 3 months. But for you as a 13-year-old to get told you're too short, you now say, what were you feeling at that point? Do you remember?
It's hard to think. I mean, oh gosh, if I'm talking to my 13-year-old self now, I'm not concentrating or listening to you. I had too much energy that it was ridiculous. I, describe my childhood like I was a very happy human being. No matter what was thrown at me, I was just happy to be there. And so from memory, I kind of just took it and moved on, because I just had so much confidence and trust in myself that I could play whatever sport and be good at it. And I think that's something that I just ultimately loved about myself, and something that I'm now trying to rediscover coming into my professional career. There's a journey, right? But it's so as a 13-year-old hearing that info, I kind of just went, whatever, I'm gonna play another sport. I'll play netball and another sport. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where do you think this confidence comes from? Obviously we'll talk about it where you are at this stage of life, but like back then, where that confidence comes from?
Oh, I mean, I had my grandparents were, they just positive everywhere I went, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're amazing, you're sporty, you're this, this was drilled into me as a kid. And I think, so good, but then, kind of got a little bit cocky, and not very self-aware. So I think it was, a dangerous place to be in. But, I had my mum and dad were awesome. When I had moments where I was sad, they'd pick me back up and just go, come on, come on. When you know what you're about, like, you've got this, And I think, that determination and ambition and motivation really does come from them. And obviously having an Indian dad where there's very high expectations, and being the firstborn too, I always had a goal written for me by him. And I actually love that, because now, if you don't have an end result or an end goal, you don't really have anything you can work towards or work for. And I think as a kid, that really helped me fight,
Yeah,
and had something to wake up every day. And, you know, my childhood was awesome. I have three younger siblings, so everything was just so happy, so active. Yeah, I'm just very, very lucky that my family are my best friends.
that's fascinating. And as a
Mm.
13-year-old, you mentioned that you went up to your coach and said, "Hey, I want critical feedback."
Yeah, I did. I
I
said,
didn't even know
give
what
me something.
feedback was at 13. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah, well, look, my mum is an amazing human being because she taught me the power of, taking criticism and seeking it as an opportunity. It's not necessarily someone attacking you or your personality. Um, so anything negative that comes my way, I'm almost taking it as an opportunity to be better. Which is, a very, I think, a great trait to have, and I wish a lot of women and men in sport had that. And I think, yeah, I went up to the coach after I had a chat with mum. Mum's like, why don't you just ask for some feedback? So I was like, yeah, okay. So I did it, and, didn't really get what I wanted out of the chat, but
Mhm.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I think feedback is such a critical component of life in general, especially
hmm
when you're going through tough times. I feel like that's when feedback actually helps you a lot more. But it's how you
hmm
perceive the feedback,
How you
right?
perceive it,
Most
absolutely.
people struggle with the idea of just getting feedback.
hmm
So let alone perceiving, I don't know, I'm not even going to get into it. Um,
Yeah.
that was your mum, you said, right?
Yeah, mum.
Hmm. That's
Yes.
fascinating. And you also said you have an Indian dad. A lot of
I'm an
people
Indian
a lot of
dad.
people don't. I had no idea, as I told you earlier, that you have Indian heritage.
I know.
What's your relationship with India?
Um, I love India. Oh my gosh. I grew up with beautiful food. I grew up with the Hindi language. I was surrounded by it. I used to have my grandmother used to have the bindis, and I used to like grab them and put them on my face, like it was just as beautiful. I think it was Hare Krishna. We used to go to a temple in Newlands and actually pray there, and I used to get all the food. So, the culture is so beautiful to me. And, it's unfortunate that my grandparents aren't here today, because I think, the power of the language, I think there's something about the language that I love, and I'm very, very connected to. Um, so I think, I want to go to India.
Mhm,
And my dad speaks fluent Hindi, so I'm hoping we can kind of,
mhm.
come on, Dad, like teach me your ways. It's a very difficult language to learn.
Yeah.
Very
I got
difficult.
that drilled into my so obviously with my background is Indian, but I've pretty
Mm-hmm.
much lived outside the whole time. And one of the things my parents were really focused on is you've got to learn how to speak our language
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
read and write. Weird
Mm.
reason, I can well, it speaks fine because I speak with them in Hindi. I could do it, but I could read and write as well.
So
I could
cool.
read for sure. Writing, I haven't written in a long time, but do you
Mhm.
think you're gonna like how tough is it having being multicultural and being able to explore this avenue, let's say of your heritage? What do you do whilst you're in New Zealand? Obviously, you mentioned you want to go to India and explore more. Well, what do you think you could do staying in New Zealand and explore your heritage?
That's actually a really interesting question. I've never been asked this before. I think now I'm gonna have to think on the spot, but I think to start with, it's a conversation I have with my dad a lot, around my grandparents and how they've been brought up. And I also asked him about perhaps learning the language. And I think that's kind of where I'm at the moment, where I'm like, I want to learn more about him. I want to learn more about my grandparents, my great grandparents. Apparently, I have about eight, great uncles or great aunties, whatever, just scattered across India. I have no idea. Um, but, within New Zealand, I think cricket really helps. Because obviously it's such a love sport in India. And my dad is, kind of sporty, kind of not. He wasn't a cricket guy, and somehow I can pick up a ball and throw it. and it happens to be that I'm Indian, and playing cricket professionally. And I think that's kind of where in New Zealand I could really connect my culture is through cricket. And yeah, that's a really interesting question. You've stumbled me on that one too, actually.
The reason I asked that is because I'm in a similar position where I'm like, hey, I want to learn more about my culture, because I would say I'm very, very multicultural. Like Canada is the seventh country I've lived in. So, right, in my 20s, already lived 7 countries. I'm like, oh, where am I from? Like, Jesus Christ. Bit of an, not identity crisis, but you question a lot of things that you come across.
Definitely.
And that's where,
Definitely.
I think it was last year or the year before, where my origins are from Jaipur in India.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there with my dad, and we're like, let's just have a blast. Let's just go explore where we're from. And go into like these royal palaces and meeting
Wow.
people, doing all of that. The cricket as well. The IPL was going on. Went to a couple of Rajasthan Royals games, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
geez, like my roots are from here. Like that's
Wow.
insane. Like so much
Yeah,
royalty. Oh, like Rajasthan, like the state's known for that. So I was like, whoa, this is a lot to take in. But I understand. I was
absolutely.
born there, but I was 2 months old when we left.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, oh no, I should know this stuff. Like a lot
Mm.
deeper. I can't speak that language over there in the States, but Hindi's like fine. But that's why this question, because a lot of my mates who are like have Indian parents, or like one of the like multicultural in this case, a lot of them go through this, which is why the question came about.
Yeah, I'm hugely connected to my Indian culture and my dad. So I said to my dad, this cricket thing that's going on for me, I said I'm gonna take it to India, and I want you to come with me, and I want you to show me how you were brought up, and where you lived. Dad was born in Delhi, so it's a busy place, I've been told, but
Chaos. Uh,
yeah.
I've been there. It's I don't know how you drive in Delhi without not hitting each other. It's like bumper cars without actually bumping. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So
Wow.
everyone knows the dimensions of the car. It's as if they are the car. Like I'm going to get as close to you without actually touching you, and you're going to be okay
Yeah.
with it, and I'm going to be okay with it. That's how they do it. It's utter chaos,
Wow.
and it's a different lifestyle. It's a crazy lifestyle, but so
Oh,
much
I
happening.
really want to experience it. I really do.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I know, I know.
No, it's definitely something to visit. Like India's got so much culture and history, and it's incredible. It's incredible. So definitely do that. Maybe you can do that with the
I will.
what's the IPL equivalent for women's? It's the WPL, is it?
Hmm.
Is that on your radar?
I am dreaming of it. And, there's a goal for everything, right? So let's see where this cricket thing will take me. You know, we've got things that we need to sort out first, which is what I'm doing here. And yeah, process, right?
Who were your going back to your early days in cricket? Who were your
Mhm.
idols growing up?
So people ask me this question, and again, this is how I was brought up, which is not great. I didn't have an idol. I didn't have one. I didn't have someone I looked up to.
Huh.
Not even in the men's game, women's game. In a lot of other podcasts, I've actually kind of lied to people about who I've looked up to and my inspirations, but I have really I looked up to everyone. Do you know what I mean? I have never had one person that I've necessarily resonated to, or I related to. I think that's something, yeah, that I can't really remember as a kid having someone, this is crazy. As a 12-year-old, I looked up to David Bowie. Like that was my celebrity. Like I'm being serious.
Wait, Barry?
Like that was my guy.
What? And then cricket?
Never in cricket.
What
Yeah, I didn't
about
have
him
anything.
was so? Why him?
Um, oh my gosh, David Bowie. Oh, I love him. Unique, odd, interpreted art through his music. And what I mean by that is, you know, I'd describe it, if I was to describe him as a painting, he's just so abstract. And I think it was just so powerful. And I was all over the show as a kid. And what I mean by that, it was all over the show, but like a lot of energy and just bouncing off the walls all the time. So I think it was just, you know, he had bright colors. You know, from a kid, you know, Ziggy Stardust was like peak for me. So I memorized the whole song. My mum used to buy me vinyls at 14 of him, and I just, yeah, it was a proper bad. Like, that's the only person where I was, you know, I thought, I love this guy. You know, he's real cool.
And then you found a way to translate his influence and use it as motivation in cricket?
I mean, no, it's definitely independent.
Oh, okay,
I'm gonna say that. But I think, like, with cricket, you know, cricket's a really interesting one because it was never a part of, you know, I never thought I would be where I am today with cricket, you know? And I think at 14, I was told, you know, you have something about you in cricket that's so special, and it could be more than just the game. And I can't remember necessarily who said that to me, but definitely a coach. And I went, okay, fine. You know, I'm loving this game. I'm gonna, you know, see where it takes me. And then I made the Blaze setup at 16, and that was kind of where I started figuring out who I resonated with the most. And yeah, I started discovering, like, you know, a lot of the girls now look at the Blaze and go, wow, these girls are amazing and they're going to be, you know, but back then it was never really televised or, you know, put on social media. It wasn't something that was, yeah, I just, as a kid, can't even really remember the Blaze as a thing, which is such a shame, but it's so cool that it's growing now, you know?
Massive, right? My
Yeah.
sister is a huge fan of cricket in general. And one of the things, we have a huge age gap, 8 years. And so she didn't see me play quite a bit. Now she's like, dude, like, when I'm going to see you play? Like, now I love cricket. Back then, I didn't like cricket. And the only time she saw me, got my middle stump rattled straight out of the ground. And like,
awesome.
And she's like, her only recollection is, oh yeah, bro got out. He's walking back. But yeah, it was hilarious. And she's like, dude, I don't want to have that as my lasting image of you playing cricket.
Yeah.
So you better
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were 13 when you got told, and then you're like, about the netball, right? And then you start thinking about, okay, cricket's your sport. So assuming you picked it up around 14, okay, you had a Wellington Blaze contract at 16 or 17?
17. Yeah,
So
17.
in 3 years' time, you had a contract. My question is, in that duration, those 3 years, did you know if you could make a career out of this?
No way. So at 16, I'm at college, and I get a call from Christy Van Dyke, who was the head coach of the Blaze at the time, saying, Xara, we want to, you know, put you in the 12 to go to, I think it was Nelson, somewhere in Central Districts. And I went, okay, why? Oh, we want you to come in as our specialist fielder. And I went, oh, okay, you know, specialist fielder, like, what a role. I know. And I got invited to the Wellington Blaze training. So real pumped, real excited. You know, after school, I've gone to the Basin Reserve. No, I haven't. I've gone to Sky Stadium, and we are, begin training. I get introduced as specialist fielder, you know, and we're starting our fielding training. And I am completely and utterly in my element. Like, I love fielding. If you were to say
drops,
not a single drop. I was absolute queen.
Okay.
Nah, I can't really remember then, but I was ultimately I was just so happy to be there. And you know, there was an absolute zero pressure, and that weekend we went into, you know, fielding, and you know, yeah, I at 16 realized while I was watching cricket, I want to be out there and playing. I remember watching as 12th, like, just going, I don't want to be on the bench. I should be out there. What's going on? You know, that's just not okay. And that's when I realized I had really, like, massive drive. And I think this is this was it for me. That was kind of my realization, you know. Yeah, 16. Then the next year, I get a call from head coach at the new head coach then, Ivan Tessera, being like, Xara, we're going to award you a contract. You're going to come in as an off spinner because I've watched you play and you're impressive. And you'll probably bat lower down, but that's okay, and you'll be our main fielder. So let's work on these skills and, make the Blaze, your home. And I went, absolutely. Wow, I will never forget that because I had my parents around me with the speakerphone. Yeah, it was awesome. It was so cool.
What was that feeling when you got that call? Was that something you were expecting, given you were almost a year into the Blaze setup?
Yeah, so I'd been training with them for, I remember, about 6 months. And then, it was actually very unexpected. Very unexpected. I didn't, and having no expectations and getting a phone call, you've gone from, here to here straight away. So now I'm walking into school first thing thinking like,
don't need to be here.
I just felt, I felt so good, so empowered and just so happy. But you know what? It made me realize, like this is a real thing now. And I need to take this seriously. And my coach and I were talking about, my energy and what it can do for me in a good, good way. And also what it could do in terms of, negative way. And so we kind of talked about that and what that looks like for me. And realized, I want to ultimately be, a high professional, high performance athlete. And, what that looks like for me is actually, I thought was being a serious athlete, having everything under control. But, as I've gotten older, it's actually the complete opposite. And I love that. I think it's important, and it gets people watching the game. So
there's so much that comes with it, with a state contract or like a county contract back in England, I'd say. It's so hard in men's cricket, especially. It is so fierce to even break into the academy setup. I don't know what is it in New Zealand, but like, do you have like academy setups? I would imagine for each.
We had a Blaze academy set up, so I would be in that as well as training with the Blaze, and that was really cool. Like the pathway, and it was only just starting. Like that pathway only just started, and it was really cool to be a part of that growth and see where it's at now. Where the girls younger than me, are insanely good. Like actually for their age, I'm like sitting there going like, whoa, like I'm a bit nervous now. It's really cool.
So I want to get into like the men's and women's side of things as well. But when you got the contract, like how people talk about a pay disparity in cricket in general between men and women. When you looked at the contract, etc., were you thinking about, were your initial reactions like, oh, okay, this is it, I'm just going to play cricket, and then you look at the contract, you're like, oh, okay, yes, but I'll have to sort of have something on the side as well. Like, what was that? What went through your mind when you saw the contract? Or could you just clarify a few things for listeners in terms of how women's contracts work in New Zealand, I guess?
Yes. So, obviously, I got the contract and signed it and whatnot. But, I was at school at the time. So there had to be a balance between cricket and school, right? And at the time, because there's not enough money back then, it was,
Sorry, how long ago was this?
This was how many years ago? 6 years ago now. A lot of things have changed since. And, I looked at it and I kind of was like, oh, that's, enough, being a 17-year-old, exciting. But my priority is school, and my dad kind of drummed that into me at such a young age. And yeah, I think when I got my contract at 19, first year university, that's when things got real for me, because I realized I want the sport so bad and I love it so much. So it didn't actually hit me until I'd left school that cricket was, the sport I wanted to pursue. So
job in this
I was
case, yes.
Sorry?
It's a job. It's the job you want.
Well, yeah, it's become a job, and social media arose for me when I was 19 as well.
Well, I
So
want to
at
get it. Yeah,
19, I posted a
can't
photo.
wait to get into that one.
Yeah, and I then thought cricket's offering more than just, being able to go out there and express myself and, throw and smack a ball. Like there's this whole world of social media and, having people watch me. And there was so much more that cricket gave me. And it became just a vehicle. And now I have a method and the way I operate in cricket, I apply to, every aspect of my life now. And, that's how seriously I take the game, really. And that didn't hit me until I was 19. And I also did notice, there is a pay gap. And it is what it is. Seriously, it's out of my control. New Zealand cricket are amazing, like doing a great job. And I love to be a part of it. So, for me, it's just about how can I get people watching the game? And, how can I entertain and how can I inspire people around me and how can I lift people up? And that changed, within maybe 2 or 3 years being a contracted player, which is, great.
And that's where social media comes in.
That's where social media.
When I looked, it was more than 160,000 followers across your socials. So that's Insta. I don't know if you're on Twitter. Are you on Twitter or X?
I'm not on Twitter, no.
Facebook, TikTok would be a big one.
TikTok,
160,000 plus people.
Yeah.
How did that start about?
I posted a photo of me in Blaze kit, pointing because I'm just, so happy when I'm playing the sport. And it went not viral, but over 100,000 likes with maybe about 4 or 5 million accounts had been hit by the photo. So, that's kind of where, and I kind of hopped on the bandwagon. I went, okay, cool. People are watching me. I'm going to keep posting and posting and posting. And now it's a job and I love it. It's a big part of who I am now and I love it.
Yeah, so you start off with, well, kid day is so good, isn't it? I just miss kid day. Getting your kid bag, opening up, and it's just filled with goodies for Christmas day.
Don't even talk to me about that. I love a fresh bag.
Give you your kit, like your equipment.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It was. I miss it so much. Like going into, I remember like the workshop and picking up my. I was sponsored by Keely Cricket.
Oh, Keely bats are good.
Keely,
they're nice.
Tim and Nick, they're the two brothers.
Yeah.
And this is a crazy story, actually. I know this is decoding wisdom, but I feel like this needs to be out there.
Okay, talk to me.
They are the people who produce bats for Sachin Tendulkar and whatnot since then, back in the day. And they used to make bats for Newbury. If you remember Newbury, it's an English brand.
I do know Newbury. Yeah. Someone gave me a Newbury bat last year, actually.
Yeah. So they used to make bats for Newbury. Something happened between them. I don't know what. And then Tim and Nick were like, we're just going to make our own. And this was where I went to high school. So probably like 20 minutes down the road. My first time when I went into their workshop, I saw they have this no glass cases, nothing. But every single player they've created a cricket bat for has returned one of, so they're doing like multiple. So like Joe Root would have like 10 bats made, and then he'd use it for a season, like one of them for a season, and then he'd like return it back as a thank you. Because I don't think they charge like the pros. I don't know how they work, but they would have a Roots bat, Bairstow, Williamson's Green X, but I saw his bat just over there. Bairstow, Tendulkar, Kohli, everyone. Like it's just lined all the way from like the 70s until
so cool.
Yeah, and I basically, and they're like, yeah, we'd love to sponsor you for a season to start. I was like,
you were like, really? Huh?
I don't think you want to do that. Not me, but if you get a chance to go down, it's in Robertsbridge, Sussex. Wow. And their gear is like top notch. So in this episode, I would say it's sponsored by Keely. So funny enough, right there. In fact, I've got
so good
one. This is my game bat right now. It's all there. So Keely, shout out. Thanks for sponsoring this episode, I guess. But yeah, no kid days so good. What was it going? Social media, right? Social media. So you
Social media.
start that, but that's a full-time job, pretty much, wasn't it? Because
It is.
it's and
Yeah.
ever since I've started this podcast, oh my god, working full-time corporate, doing a podcast, doing socials, that's three
It's a
different
lot, isn't
jobs.
it?
I want to
Yeah.
get into
It's,
like how do you balance? So right now, what's your situation now? You're in England now. You're playing club cricket.
mm-hmm.
You're doing
Yep.
uni. You just wrapped up. You
Yep.
mentioned you have
Yep.
your social media,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not working,
I'm
right?
working.
You are
I
working.
am working. Yeah, I'm working. Yeah.
So you have four things going on right now.
Yes. Yeah.
What is
Yeah. It's.
what does the day look
I
like?
mean, yeah. It's. There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
So I'm. So my current degree I'm in is marketing and finance and entrepreneurship. That's my degree. And then I'm working in marketing and sales currently for a membership-based organization in Wellington. And I work remotely here about 15 to 20 hours a week. And then I train with my amazing, phenomenal coach for about 20 hours a week. I play Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes one or the other, which is cool. And yeah, and I'm social mediaing like every day. I'm content creating every day. I love it.
So what does the day look like? Let's say your busiest day. Give us a rundown from the time you wake up to, let's say, you editing a reel at like 11 p.m., for example. Like what? Talk us through a day.
Okay, let's go through a day. So my training starts 6:45 in the morning, so that's not too bad.
Start
But I have starts at 6:45. So I get to training 6:45. I finish at 11 in the morning, and then I go I'm
a
training.
lot of training.
I train
What
for
sort of
4 and
training is that? Like
so
S&C? Are
it,
you doing like
high intensity, like full on hitting balls. I'm bowling 20 overs. I'm facing 25 overs with the bat and bowling 20 of them, and then I'm fielding, throwing, and then for 4 hours straight. I'll have maybe 5 or 10 minute breaks in between, but it's otherwise high intensity. Like I'm always on the go, which is great. Love it. That's why I'm here. And then for about 11:30, me and my coach we have an accountability session when we sit down and we talk about, what's next, what our plan is coming into our next session, where I'm at mentally, and we go through that process together. So that takes maybe 30 minutes to an hour. One time it took 3 hours. And then, get home, got to feed myself because that's the thing you do. And I'm working for maybe 2-3 hours, usually just a couple hours coaching in the afternoons, coming back, usually go TikTok live, Instagram live, or creating content from the session. So that's like maybe an hour and a half of my time. Yeah, I don't necessarily sleep until 10:30, so it's not bad, but the latest I sleep has been midnight. And I think for me, being an athlete, the next day I'm up first thing in the morning. I have to sleep 8 hours. It's just is what it is. So I need to sleep by 10:30. So I find a lot of the things that I want to get done is very much unfinished. But I don't know, I've got so much energy and I've got so much trust in myself, and the level of discipline I have is really, really cool. It's something about me that I really pride myself on. It's just, at the end of the day, I gotta put the work in if I want to get somewhere in life. So do it.
that is very intense. And
Very.
I used to do that in England when I was like
Hmm.
literally trying to go pro because that was my purpose. So
Yeah.
that's what drove me. And
Hmm.
there's a huge distinction between motivation and discipline
Hmm.
because you can have all the motivation you want, but
Hmm.
unless you're disciplined and actually doing the thing,
Unless,
you're not going to
yes.
achieve it.
Yes.
More so, I'm realizing it now, and
Hmm.
something I struggle with, and this is something cricket gave and sort of took away was the discipline side of things. When you don't have a
Hmm.
purpose, it becomes so tough. Let's say if I'm trying to wake up at 5 a.m. these days, right? And it's more like, okay, how do I make sure that I get up and win the morning?
Mm-hmm.
But then every morning when I wake up, I'm like, what's this for though? That's the
What is
first
it
thought that
for?
comes out. I'm
Yes.
like, going, sitting, doing a corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Mm.
what's the more? What's the next thing?
Mm.
Then it's like, no, podcast. Okay, get out of bed. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
cricket, it was so easy. Yep, I'm up.
Yeah.
I used to get to the gym at 6 a.m., then
Mm.
do my high school, and then have training until 8 p.m.,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So
Wow.
it was, I completely, but on days where I don't see time for yourself in this, the day you just
Um,
described, how do you deal with that?
I think there is so much time for self in that. Cricket is my passion and it's my love. It's what drives me. It's what motivates me. It's more than just the sport itself. It's about inspiring the next generation and uplifting every single person around me. Um, so I'm doing ultimately what I love. That is me time, especially coaching. So that's the way I think about it. It's all about mentality. And even in the job I do, my priority is to benefit the business and bring in sales. And what does that look like for them? And, I love it when someone challenges me because I just think awesome, like put me under pressure because I do well under pressure. That's good. That's what I want. You know, that is that is me. That is a part of me. It's part of who I am. But I have moments where I get tired. And so, how do I, bring myself back to earth and, chill out? Um, I've got obviously my partner Dan at home. And I spend a lot of time with him. So, there are times where I do go out to golf and we go out movies, we go to movies and, date nights, whatever. And I've got my family time as well, and they're a great escape as well. So I have those moments where, there is a bit of me time. But what I'm doing is for me ultimately.
That perspective, well, is it glass half full or half empty? But I think this is taking it to a different level where you're like, all of this that I'm doing is me time. I've actually never thought of it that way. Holy cow.
Yeah, it is. It is me time. It's, there's a reason, it comes back to purpose. And for me, you know, is there passion in your chosen purpose? Um, and if there isn't, then you're really going to struggle to get up and do things for yourself because it's not necessarily something you're passionate about. But it's really tough with, careers, right? Because ultimately we all need money. And we all need, we need to make a living and whatever. So it does become difficult. And I do understand where people come from with that.
So with you found your purpose in cricket, and I
Yeah,
hope it
I'm,
stays,
yeah.
right? Because on the other side, it gets very, it's not the easiest. You have to go soul searching for a bit. But for people who are in their jobs right now, what advice would you give them in terms of finding their purpose and then doing what you're doing, like have this perspective of this is me time? Because a lot of in
Mm,
corporate, and I'm sure you can relate to, you see people like, yeah, now I'm done with this. I can't do it. What's
mm,
this for even?
mm-hmm.
What would you tell those
I think
people?
I think it's amazing that those people went through a job interviewing process. They sat there and had an amazing conversation and were able to talk about themselves in a way that made that person go, yep, we're going to hire you. And then to be given a contract and a salary is such a privilege. To then walk into an office and be able to meet so many different people with so many different
Mhm.
stories is a privilege. To then work from 9 to 5 p.m. to benefit the company, to make people feel better about themselves, to being able to have conversations is a privilege. And I think, as a byproduct of that, there's stability with income.
Mhm.
And, it's amazing what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
they're doing. I think, you know, life is so precious and so beautiful.
Mhm.
And I think, to be working a 9 to 5, like good on you. You deserve the stress, you deserve the pressure. You did
Uh-huh.
all the work to get there. So,
Interesting.
wow, amazing. Like I think keep going, you're tired now, but there was a reason why you turned up to that job interview in the first place.
Mhm.
Go back to that and you'll figure it out.
I,
Just trust yourself.
I definitely like that. The last part you mentioned, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Okay.
Nice.
Let's say someone's done, hypothetical example, right? Someone's played I don't know, has reached high accolades during the teen years. Okay. Done, I don't know, maybe it's cricket, maybe it's they've been in the Olympics for all you know. Okay.
Okay.
Also, for their undergrad or uni, went to Harvard or Princeton,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
And the way as teenagers, the way life is painted out for us is get a good job, get stable, enjoy life. When you get into the corporate world, sometimes it's not the case. My counter argument is, or question is, you achieve all these things in your life to sit behind a desk 9 to 5. Is that what
Mm.
life is? I'm going to do that, or this person's going to do that for the next 20, 30, 40 years, and then what, just like die and that's it? Like, that's what you were, like, where's life? Now, obviously, certain jobs aren't as intense, understood.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times your 9 to 5 isn't really a 9 to 5.
No, I'm
Then,
sure.
and this I can guarantee is a lot of people go through this, or a lot of students that I've seen who come into the workforce from this dream that they're sold to then them experiencing it and being like, this is it. Like, I went to Harvard for this, a paycheck, and like this work that I'm doing, because your passions change, they evolve. So I understand where you're coming from. I see it, but that's because you're a glass half full kind of person. For someone who's going through what they are in what I described, how would you counter them?
Yeah, you've challenged me heaps on that, and because you know what? The reality is I've never experienced a 9 to 5, nor have I, and I probably will once I
Gosh,
finish
I
my
hope
cricket
not. I
career.
hope you keep playing and you're good.
Well, as in after my cricket career, right? So there's going to
Oh,
be a point in life,
we can
right?
have another
But
episode on like business, right? We're good. We're
yeah,
good on that.
but I think what an interesting question and great counter argument. But I think that life is what you make it. And it all comes back to the mentality you must have. And at the end of the day, you are earning and in a very stable position. I don't know. I think for me personally, gosh, I just think you're so deserving of challenge. And I think challenge is what drives us. So if you're sitting there behind a desk and you're going, what am I doing with my life? Then you're meant for more, dude. Like get out of the workplace, go do something for yourself. How cool is that? How cool to have that feeling and realization. Like and how scary to be like, oh my gosh, I've worked towards something. I went to Harvard and now I'm, working a 9 to 5. Like where am I at? Like that is what a cool feeling, because yes, you're meant for more, all of us are, so go find it. I'm so optimistic in that
Yeah.
sense. But yeah,
No, I know
that's
it's a tough question to sort of. It's a tough topic to discuss because majority of the
it is.
population go through it, and
Yeah.
that's the reason of the podcast's existence, is to ask these tough questions and get people
Hmm.
on to discuss. Like, hey, yes, there is more to life. Like, that's how I am as
There
well.
just
Super.
is.
I don't know if I told you this. I did this like weird quiz, and they're like, "You're way too optimistic," and I'm like, "Is that a thing?
Is
I
that
can
a
be good
thing?
in everything, right?" And it's like, okay, great. But then a lot of times people are on the opposite end. They're too
Mm-hmm.
pessimistic. And when you're pessimistic and in the situation that I just described, you don't want to be in that position, because then you're pretty much like, oh, the world's just crumbling. I'm screwed. I'm done.
Mm.
Versus now, mate, there's so much more. If you're in a 9 to 5 and you don't like it, you don't have to be there. Who said you have to be there? You could
Mm.
go. But people are like, no, but what about this? What about that? I'm like, mate, you got to weigh out your priorities then, in that sense.
Absolutely. I think with it, you've got free will. We can do whatever we
People
want.
forget that. Mm-hmm.
People forget it. Like I think we trap ourselves in, stereotypes and stigmas and all this, break through, and be different. And that's, something I do in my cricket is be different. And, it's rediscovered, my love like for myself, and when you go through high school, you kind of, I don't know, you go through a lot of low self-esteem, low
Yeah.
self-confidence, etc., and you go make bad decisions, which is, human nature. Um, but once you kind of rediscover your love for, I know I get real nervous talking about myself and saying, I pride myself on this, but
Thanks for
it's
being on the podcast,
severely,
talking about yourself.
yeah, yeah, wow, shock. Yeah, like it is like a powerful thing to sit back, look at yourself in the mirror and go, I've got free will. Like I can do whatever I want. The reality is, this is deep, but like when we die, nothing really matters. Like seriously, nothing matters. You die twice. One, you like properly pass, and two is a lot. Someone will say your name once and then not say it again, and then all of a sudden it doesn't matter. You know.
What do you mean by that?
So
The second part.
what I mean by that is, someone mentioned my name in, billions of years. Imagine they
Oh,
could, and that'd be the last time they've ever said it, and then no one will say it again, and that's when I've truly gone. Like no one really,
right.
yeah. So what I'm
I
saying
got
is, it's, yeah. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't really matter what we do and how we do things, and break through the stereotype, do things for yourself and make yourself feel good, love yourself. You realize that you're, an asset, not to just, you, but like everyone around
you.
you. And the world would be a much better place, right?
That would be ideal. And
It would
I
be.
completely understand where you're coming from in terms of like how you die the second way around. It's
Yeah.
one of I'm a huge Formula One guy. One of my favorite drivers in Formula One is Sebastian Vettel. Like ever since I was a kid, 4-time world champion. And towards the end of his career, someone asked him, "Hey, when you retire, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?" He's like, "Dude, I don't care about legacy." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "People know who I am now. Once I die, sure I'll be around for the next, I don't know, 20 years. But once the next generation comes in, then I'm just history. No one knows. So why does legacy matter then? It's more about so that's what it just hit me. That's what you mean with that. But
Yeah.
people struggle with, and I see it with my friends. It's so hard once you get into the societal rat race. People don't they take time for themselves. And what
Mm,
you said is you have one life, enjoy it. There's a
absolutely.
philosopher I love, and he's a Silicon Valley investor called Naval Ravikant. Sure
Hmm.
if you know. He has this very famous quote. I almost quote it in all my episodes. So this is a very interesting thing that's been happening. But he says, "You only live once. Why settle for mediocrity?
Mm,
What's the point,
I agree.
right?"
I completely agree.
And but most people struggle to see that because they lack self-awareness, and that's something. What I'm the more I get to know you, I'm understanding is you've spent time on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now with that sky, I could tell it's a lot of work. And same here. Like
It
I
is,
love
yeah.
doing it. I love asking myself the hard questions. But at what point in life did self awareness enter for you? And what's your relationship with self awareness?
Great question. I went to a semi-private school, semi-public, whatever, for the first couple years, and that's when I, realized that, the world can be quite mean, um, and there are people that aren't going to like you, um, and dealing with that, and having, you know, naughty friends and how that can actually influence what you do, and etc. So, I've gone through this whole kind of self-awareness, self-discovery, like who am I, through high school. And for the first couple of years, the first year, I was the mean girl because I was cocky, right? We go back to the whole, I was loved by everyone, I thought, and I was going to be the most popular girl, I thought, the prettiest girl, I thought, like it was bad, And what came of that is finding quite, naughty friends and making bad decisions. And then you get into I then moved schools, and you know, cricket, I would argue, was, I had a really serious conversation with my coach at 16. So I got a call from my coach saying, "Zara, I need you to sit with me, about something serious." And I've gone, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I walked up, cocky me, like, haha, he's just going to talk to me about how amazing I am, And boy, did I know. He sits me down and he said, right, I want to talk to you about professionalism, and what it takes to be a Blaze player. And I went, okay, what? And he's like, not how you acted last training. And from memory, I can't really remember what I did last training. I was probably being a bit naughty, maybe said a few things that were a bit naughty, don't know. But pretty much just told me straight, like, you know, it's all good being the best player, but you want to be a very good teammate. And I'm like, okay, fine. I didn't really know what he meant by that, but then I kind of figured it out. And I think, I realized I got real nervous. Okay, so this is when I got back and I sat in the car with Mum and I went, Mum, it's time to change. It's time to lift people up. It's time to make people feel good about themselves. It's time to make me feel good, because every time I make a bad decision or do something that's silly, I get nervous and anxious. So why do I do that to myself? Like, let's figure this out, and I did. I've figured it out. I have such passion for people and this and hearing these stories and what they have to say, and making them feel better about themselves. That's something that I'm truly just in awe about, is making people feel good about themselves. It's just something I care about deeply, and I think I do that a lot through my social media, and that's why I post a lot of happy content, because I just care about putting a smile on people's faces, and ultimately being the best teammate, the Energizer Bunny. So self-awareness came through high school, and those really interesting conversations and the silly mistakes that I did make. And getting into first year university was when things really I kind of went, okay, I need to, my brain's a muscle. So we've got to really work on my mental method and what that looks like and how I should operate. And I didn't really discover that until I met, if you were to talk about my inspirations and mentors, I met him here last year, and I've kind of figured out what that method is and what that looks like for me. So, yeah, it's a journey. Self-awareness was a journey.
Oh no, tell me about it. It comes at you at the beginning, and it's more like oh my good God, like, what
I
all have I
know.
got myself? But then
Yeah.
I think it's such a beautiful thing, and for me, it's like, if you want to get good with money, you study money, like finance. Make
Mhm.
money, you study
Mhm.
finance, become an expert. So
Mhm.
that's how I thought about uni. He's like, oh shit, I want to make money. Let me learn how to make what money is and how to use it.
Nice.
And then obviously you start about think about self awareness, and when it hits you through whatever medium, in this case, I
Mhm.
remember I was like, oh my God, we think about all these tangible objects and material things that we want to gain, but you got to know yourself first. Because if you don't unlock yourself, what's the point in doing whatever you do? And that's where I was like, okay, rather than studying money, I got to study me, aka humans. Like, how do we think? How do we go about? How can I leverage this as much as I can? And the more I get into it through the podcast, through everything else, I'm like, whoa, you want to
Yeah.
unlock high
It's
performance? You got
yeah.
to start here first.
Yeah.
This is step one.
Absolutely.
But most people are like, oh, high performance, how could I get bigger? How could I get, how could I get better at hitting
Mm.
sixes? Or like, I can get more revs in on my offies that I'm chucking around,
Yep.
right? So, but no. It's
Yeah.
the mind. You got to start here first. You got to see yourself being able to do that first before you actually physically go out
Absolutely.
and do it.
There's so much power in being your own best friend in that sense. That's something I'm truly, quote me on that, please, because that's something I think is just hugely important. Because as soon as you find a little bit of love for yourself, it becomes easy to love others and look after them, and make them feel good, right? So it's such a powerful thing, looking after yourself and figuring out, who you are and how you act and want to act, that those things are really, really important.
It's I love that you said you have to be your best friend first, and it reminds me
Mm.
of someone I really look up to, and my inspirations for the podcast is Chris Williamson, um, in the States. Well, he's
Mm.
English, from Newcastle, good old guy. But he was on Love Island, I don't know if you know about the show, but
Yep.
and he was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, basically. And then over the years, he has his own podcast now, does crazy things, doing like live shows, etc., called Self
Wow.
Discovery Tours. And in one of his podcasts, he said that he got this advice. He's like, would you have a beer with yourself? Would you take yourself for a beer? And that's the question you have to ask yourself in order to, it's that check, it's that sense check, or the self-checking that you do. Like, would I have would I, have a beer with Zara if I'm you? Yeah, man, I would. I'd have a blast. Yeah. That's when you
Yeah, I
know,
would.
that's the question, which is like, yeah, I'm good. I think
Yeah,
I'm in a good
yeah.
spot.
Definitely. Yeah, and you know what, I have been, I've got a big family, had lots of friends, and, I'm surrounded by good people. So my whole life I've always had someone I could have a beer with
Mm,
or a pint with, whatever. And then, I went to England alone, and
mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I went out on my own.
Went
Um,
out on your own, like
I went out
like
to the
out
pub
out.
and drunk
Oh.
on my own. And I didn't drink a cider because I was driving. I was having a Coke, chilling. I had my diary out of me in front of me, and I just wrote. And I have, yeah, I've that's kind of where the whole self-awareness, self-discovery, a lot of love comes. Yeah. It was I actually discovered it being here, and that's why I have so much love for this country.
Oh, I miss England every day. Oh, Jesus. It's
Yeah.
a love-hate relationship with England. It's so funny because Brexit to begin with. Why would you do that? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, England's given me everything apart from that.
Yeah.
It has to be my development, all the stuff. Well, everything came there because I moved to boarding school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first time being alone. So I completely resonate with
Mm.
you. It's like, oh, okay, now what do I do in this time?
What do I
And then
do?
you kind
Yeah.
of go down that route. But how's it been living alone?
I've had one of the last 3 years while I've been here has been fantastic. As in the last 3 off seasons have been amazing here. I've just found so much happiness. And I've kind of figured out, you know, who I want to be and how I want to operate while being here, especially with my cricket. And it's only made me a little bit more hungry because there's just so much here. Um, and so much opportunity. It's been awesome to be surrounded by very like-minded people as well. And it's been ultimately challenging. And it's
Yeah. And you mentioned you're playing, is it in Gloucester right now? Right.
yeah. So I'm playing in Appley, which is like a tiny little village
Mm-hmm.
here. So it's really cool near Cheltenham.
Mm-hmm.
And
After the
yeah, it's just
races, you got to do that.
yeah.
You actually got to do it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I need to,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's pretty, and the cricket club here is lively, and it's just I would describe it as very family like, and it's just really, really homely. It's nice.
And your
Yeah.
coach you mentioned, or your mentor, someone you look up to, right, is in Gloucester.
Yes.
And I don't know if we
Yes.
spoke about this, the competence equation, right?
Mm.
So this is what you told me. It's that
Okay.
awareness plus understanding plus responsibility
Yeah.
equals
I
competence.
love this. You've remembered.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I've met someone here
Mhm.
that's completely changed my life.
What do you mean by
He's
that?
quickly become family. Um, oh, everything's changed. Everything has changed. I've realized very quickly that knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. We need to know why we do things and why and how to do it. And I think, I always relied so much on my natural ability and visual skills, and realized there's so much more to unlock and so much more potential. We were talking about facing the fastball the other day, and he goes, what a privilege to be able to face 80 miles in the bowling machine, which I did today, which was scary. And he goes, what does it do for you? And I went, oh, it makes me a bit nervous. He goes, no, it makes you on high alert. It makes you ready. And I went, you're right. And he's just He's, yeah, great. So, his name's Dave Simpkins. He's amazing. He's known as Simo here and, coaches amazing people here. And he's someone that's, given me a method, his method, and I've completely adopted it and made it my own. So what that is awareness, your strengths and weaknesses, let's talk about cricket, like strengths and weaknesses in cricket. And then you've got your knowledge element, which is, your understanding and, where did that come from? Your coaches, mentors, YouTube, could be a book. And then you've got your responsibility phase, which is your accountability, consistency, and accuracy of your trainings. And as a result of that is, you build self-belief and trust in your skills. And as a byproduct, you get confidence. And it's amazing. And I want to share it with everyone around me. It's a method that I think could change so many people in all respective fields, I think.
Oh no, it's definitely replicable in so many
Yeah.
aspects for sure. I'm also seeing in that equation throwing in perception of how you perceive things as well, because you mentioned it doesn't feel like a privilege when you're facing 80, 90 miles an hour coming at you, especially when they're like bouncers. No thank you. We are
It's a no for me.
Oh my god, there was a point where the bowling machine, this is Sussex, I remember, Sussex County Cricket Club down in Brighton, and the coach, I was on like this camp over there, and the coach, he was like the head coach of Sussex, or like the, I don't know, academy, I can't remember, but he's like, last day of camp, we're gonna put you in bowling machine, 99 miles, bounces. I'm like, what? Why'd you do that?
Silly.
And he's like, we're gonna obviously let it go if you fly over your head, but I want you to get a feel of what Sean Tate would feel like, kind of a thing, or like Brett Lee.
Okay.
And he's like, it's a privilege. I'm like, how is this privilege? You're basically shooting a bullet at me right now. Now I'm like 17 and I'm pretty much shitting myself. Like,
Wow.
I don't want to stay there.
Yeah.
So I stand next to, like, just take a couple of steps back from the stump. I'm like, just put one through. Let's see how this goes, right? Like you do. I just heard a thud against the wall and I'm like, I didn't even see it. Right. And then he's like, right, in you come. And this is so funny. A couple of them, before even he put the ball in the machine, I just duck. And I would just hear a thud over my head. There was one though where the bowling machine was wobbly. So you know how sometimes when you tighten it and if it's not tightened up, it like loosens and it could like change elevation.
Yep. Yeah.
So it kind of just it just changes trajectory a little bit. 99, same thing. And I'm like, okay, here we go. But I'm like, dude, okay, just be aware. It comes through, but it was not as short as before. So I'm just there and I see this thing. I don't know how I saw it. And it swung in a bit because the machine was wobbly. So sometimes when one rotor is spinning more than the other, it swings.
Wow.
And it came in and I just literally flung myself out of it and I fell backwards. And I remember hearing it whiz past me and it hit the wall. And I was like, whoa, holy cow. Got up and my coach, and he was just like that. And like, oh my God, like,
oh my gosh,
I'm glad you're alive. Because if that pinned me, I was gone. Like, there's no chance. 99 bouncer. But that was not a privilege, I'll tell you that. That was not fun.
The short ball and me have been, we don't have a very good relationship. And it's, something we're kind of, trying to figure out. Dave has, been a huge part of that journey. So he's, the whole idea of being on high alert. And he said, Xara, you're very extroverted. You've got a lot of energy. How cool. When you get put under pressure, it releases some superpower. This, what did he say? You want to create a mental battle with the opposition, one mistake and they're out, and, he said, what pressure gives you is this, how would I describe it? Adrenaline rush and how do we, where does pressure come? This is something we deserve. I deserve the pressure. I earned the right for it. So, soak it all in and allow your body to do the work. His method is, what feeds your brain, your eyes, okay, fine. So if my eyes feed my brain with the right information, the body will do the task it asks it. So if I want to bowl the ball in a certain area, I just need to feed my brain with the information and the body will do the task it asks it. So it's just so simplistic. It's so simple.
Very philosophical.
And yes,
Yeah.
very. He is an amazing man. Yeah, amazing. My best friend.
Might have to get him on the podcast. Like I'm not even
You
joking.
need to. No. He would change people's lives. He deserves to be heard. I think, he's working in a school right now, but he should be more than that. There's it's completely changed. He makes bad players good, but he makes good players professionals, and that is something that, a lot of coaches don't have.
Jose Mourinho, I don't know if you know who that is.
No.
He used to be the head coach of Chelsea, like football, and there was like this meme. It's like, I take good players and turn them into great players, and then the meme would be like being a wingman to your best friend. So that it's so weird. That's the first thing that came to my mind when he said that. But
I'm sorry.
no.
It's so cliche, but it's just something I've definitely observed. A lot of people know of this person here in England as a coach that just changes people, and I think at first I kind of was like, oh, whatever, and I kind of had this first training session with him. We did 2 hours last year in August, and it went from 2 to 4 hours, and we realized we're very similar people with similar ambition. I challenge him and he challenges me, and now we train 4 hours a day together. I went back to England to live 30 minutes from him so that we could train 4 hours a day. So he's a good guy.
And how far is New Zealand from England? Give a bit of
he actually came to New Zealand last year.
Oh, did he?
As well. Okay. He did. He followed me to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we worked a lot together then as well. So I think it's going to happen again, which is good.
That's awesome. No, I love that.
It's
I think cool. The piece around High Alert is, I'd love to have a word with him, because I think there's a lot going on.
You do. Yeah. There's and you know what? His story is the most amazing story you will ever hear. It's so much adversity, and to be where he is now is just phenomenal.
Is he involved with the Gloucester setup?
Well, yeah, he used to play for Gloucestershire. He was an ex-professional cricketer. And
wait, what's the name you said?
David Simpkins. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Definitely, I will definitely pass on his details to you. He would love.
Yeah, sure.
We'll
pick it offline.
Yeah, he's amazing. But yeah, he was an ex-professional, and his story of the setup is interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting. I won't disclose. It's his story to tell, but it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool. But yeah, I've got a method, and I apply it to everything, not just cricket.
You said you have a partner as well, right? Dan.
I do. Daniel, yeah.
How has being a professional cricketer been in terms of managing a relationship?
It's been tough, but I sat him down in a cafe to say no to him. Okay, I knew he was going to ask me out, and I walked into a cafe and I've sat with him and gone, I'm going to say no to this guy. And I said, look, Dan, I like you a lot, but I'm going to be a professional cricketer. This is what I want. This is where I'm going to go.
That's better than saying, I like you as a friend.
Yeah. No, yeah, that would just be awful. But I literally sat him down and I said, look, this is where I'm at in life. I was 18, and I said I'll be going to England every year for 4 or 5 months. So I knew it was gonna happen. Manifestation is real. Okay, we can touch on that. But I said at 18 to him, like, I'm going to England for 4 or 5 months until I become something greater, and my first love is cricket, and my life will be dedicated to that. If you're not going to support that, then, you're definitely not for me. And I'll be honest with you, like, I probably struggle to commit to you anyway. And I was being serious, and he turned around and he said, like, Zara, you've got something special, and I love it. And what did he say? It's infectious, he said, and I want to be a part of your journey. I want you to be the best version of yourself. I want to support you, and if that means you going away for 4 or 5 months in a year, that's okay. I will look after your family. I'll look after your support network. I'll look after you as much as I can. And I was like, done deal. Okay. Been with him for 4.5 years. And, yeah, he's amazing, amazing, mate. He's very intelligent as well. Very intelligent. So I'm very lucky, and it's very rare to find, for sure.
Definitely, because it must be the reason I asked it, because it must be harder being away from him, being away from your family for like 3, 4 months a year. Because you're in England for the summer, I'd imagine, for the season, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just figuring it
Yes,
out
I
on
am.
your own.
Yeah.
It's good to know that you have something to get back to as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, the distance is actually quite important, especially in your 20s, right? I think it's really, really important to kind of figure yourself out. It's, Daniel's also got an amazing journey, studying to be an actuary as well as working full time. And, he just did a half marathon, and he's hoping to do a full one soon. So he's got his ambitions, and, that's his journey. And I'll be honest, it's much easier not having me there, because then he's got nothing, he can just focus on what he needs to, right? And, it's the same with me. We have these conversations, and it's just, it's such a powerful thing having such like-minded people. You kind of just bounce off each other, and there's no pressure and no stress on one another, and it's, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it's so critical with that, because you are what you think you are to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
also who you surround yourself with, who makes you who you
Absolutely.
are. So finding your right people, because your life could have easily gone a different way had you have
Yeah.
continued, let's say for you, your high school,
Yep. Yeah.
naughty era, I guess, is what it
Yeah,
was. You know what I
it's
mean?
you are a product of your environment,
Yeah.
I think that's, but what controls that environment is
Mhm.
actually you. You can control your environment and where you go and who
Yeah.
you want to hang out with. It is a choice.
Mhm.
Um, good things will happen to good people. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, going back to discipline and like motivation, that piece, I'm just thinking about discipline versus consistency. Where do you draw the line between the two?
Question. Love that. What do I define as discipline in my life for me? When I'm tired, do it anyway. Discipline, consistency. Um, you know, consistency is interesting. Consistency is something that I struggled with a lot, actually. Um, you know, turning up and doing the same thing every day can be really hard. And cricket is something you're doing the same thing every day, Um, so I think for me, consistency comes from knowing, where I'm going to go and what that's going to look like for me. So I end up turning up, and that's consistency. Like I do the same thing every day. Where discipline, it's like turning up to those days when I'm feeling tired. So that's kind of like my definition for it, I would argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Mm.
do you draw the line? Is there?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's something I ponder with every day as well. More so
Mm.
from the cricket side, but I'm slowly trying to implement it in real life as well. Because
Mm.
cricket is a part of your life. I think that's something I would love to communicate to the younger generation, that your sport
Mm.
is a part of your life. It's not your life. Because
Yes.
once you stop playing, all of a sudden you lose this purpose, right? And that's where this whole everything we just spoke about, discipline, consistency, motivation, competence, awareness, knowledge is power, it just goes straight in the bin, because you're like, oh, I don't know where to apply it elsewhere, which is why the question. And so, okay, let's move on to you playing men's cricket in England, all right?
Okay, let's do it.
How I know, pivot. What's that been like playing against men and that journey? Did you
Yeah.
in New Zealand, sorry, clarification. Do you play as like is there women's leagues and stuff, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah.
You play club cricket just women's, or is there like men's cricket in New Zealand as well that where you can
There's men's cricket in New
yeah,
Zealand,
yeah.
but their men's and women's are like on Saturday. They land on a Saturday. Where here, the women's stuff is on a Sunday and the men's is on a Saturday, which I love. I love that they've got that system because it allows women to also play the men's game and it gives them opportunity to play as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, yeah, so that's kind of the system in New Zealand is that the women and men's club cricket are always on a Saturday.
And they're just different. Like there's no cross pollination or like
not really. No, you can.
Okay.
You can, but there's not enough. You know, if you are a lady playing in the men's league in New Zealand, you're encouraged to play in the women's setup. Just because we need more people involved in it. So that's been that's New Zealand, and then England. Men's cricket was interesting. The reason I did it. Why am I playing men's cricket? People ask. I was told brutally by my coach. If you want to get better at the sport, Zara, you need to go and play men's cricket. I was like, okay, fine, I will then. So I went and got on the phone with my agent. And I said, get me a contract with a men's club cricket and I will play. And I did. So it turned out, got my contract, first year in, and it was, what a journey. Like, it was very interesting. The banter is, huge. There's a lot of banter.
Right there.
A lot of chat.
A lot of chirping. A lot of chirping going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like, the English humor is quite funny actually. I really enjoyed it.
Funny.
It's funny. And yeah, I got a lot of, Instagram DMs afterwards, which is always funnier. So you just look at them and laugh like I know that I just played you in the Saturday match.
What sort of DMs? Obviously you don't have to disclose who, but what were the conversations?
Conversations would be like, you played really well, X, or like, you want to net and chill. I'm like, I'm like, no.
Oh, that's bad game right there. That's
bad game. I mean, it's funny. We play the same teams, I think, twice.
Right. Yeah. Home and away.
So, there was this one guy that had messaged, but like nonstop, right? And I'm batting and I see him in point and he's chirping me out. And I said, are you flirting with me right now? In front of everyone. On the pitch, I was batting.
Okay.
And he was really upset about it. He was really...
Was he the same net and chill guy?
Yeah. Sorry?
Was he the net and chill guy?
Yeah. Oh, God. I can't remember. Definitely not this dude. This dude was, he was spamming me. But he was funny. It was all funny and we chatted afterwards and whatever, being respectful. It's all part of, when you're a lady playing in the men's league, like it's human nature. I can't control what they do, right? So it is what it is, in my opinion. I don't really think.
Yeah, as a man, I was in that position where I remember playing club cricket in England and it was like they had a couple of ladies playing, women. That was my first time and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And they were guns. Like they could play.
Right.
But where I don't have the balls to pretty much just go up and chirp because I'm like, oh, am I like crossing a boundary?
Crossing a boundary.
Like, how do I do it? And it was, so I just stayed shut. So as I'm a wicketkeeper, so if I'm batting, if I'm standing behind the stumps, the spinner up to the stumps, she's batting. Like I would literally say nothing, but then when the guy, the non-strike would bat, I'd just chirp him up. So it was, but I didn't know how to counter that or like tackle that situation, right? So what would you say to men who come across women playing cricket? Like, what would you say?
Look, I'm actually, I don't know if this could be, controversial, but I think it's, it is, I talk about privilege a lot, but it is a privilege as a woman to be playing in a men's league. It's I'm very lucky that it's allowed. And you don't see a man playing in the women's league, right? And that's because I guess it doesn't challenge them as much, and you just don't, right? So for me, I just go, thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate that you guys are all so welcoming and allowing me to play here and express myself. Because the reality is there's a biological difference. I'm not going to be able to smack a bomb like the massive guy next to me who's tall, like 6 foot, like absolute massive biceps, like I'm never going to be like that. So thank you for letting me be a part of this bubble. Because I think the men's game is it's a recipe for success. So it's there's a lot that we as women can take from the men's game, and what it has to offer for the ladies game is good and vice versa. So I think it's really, really cool that I get to be a part of that setup and be challenged mentally, like, and physically. It is challenging, and it's making me a better player.
And
Yeah.
I definitely respect that, and I think that's a very glass, half full approach, as you
Yeah.
are, and that's the biggest theme in this episode is you're always optimistic. You always see the best
Yeah.
out of things. The
Yeah.
question I have is, what advice would you give men who come across women in cricket? Let's say
Yeah.
where I found was if I'm sledging, okay,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I'm sledging, my issue was always, do I sledge her in the exact same way, or am I crossing a boundary here? Like
Oh
where
man,
at what
this is great.
yeah.
This is great. I say sledge all you like seriously, just be you. You know, as a lady woman walking into the men's setup, you're going to have to expect a little bit of banter, a little bit of, something inappropriate is going to come your way. It shouldn't happen, but it's going to happen. And we need to be able to handle that and just kind of move on. Like, I'm sorry, I've never ever, I've had a lot of comments come my way. They've been, sexist or subconscious sexism. I peeled for an LBW once, and he goes, "That's not out, sweetheart." And I turned around and I said, "If you call me sweetheart again, I will punch you in the face." And then I got reported.
Umpire.
Like, yeah, umpire told me sweetheart. It was a player umpire.
Oh, okay.
I said, like, "Don't call me sweetheart." Like, that's just like not. But also, I kind of just got over it straight away. Like, I heated in the moment. I just kind of like, whoops, I shouldn't have said that. It was really bad from me. But it doesn't necessarily affect me. So I say, as a lady being in the men's setup, if you are, it's just, allow them to be them and then just move on. You're here to play the cricket and to be challenged and get what you can out of the game. And then for men, it's, just be who you want to be. And how you want to be. But at the end of the day, if you want to rip someone to, roast someone, like, you do you. That's a part of the game, especially, Division 5, Div 8, like cricket, right? Like, you're going to get it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Your life's just,
D5. Oh
it's
my
not that
god.
serious, right? Like,
Moonball. That's what I'm picturing. Off he goes.
yeah.
Not gonna land, is
Yeah.
it?
And then, the
And you still get bowled.
70-year-old man staying in slit for the whole 45 over period, like it's brilliant. I love it.
Village cricket it's one of the best things ever.
Uh,
That's why I love the Great
I
Cricketer, the podcast. Those guys.
so good. I love what cricket does for people. There's something about village cricket that I love is, cricket brings people together, and it's why I play the sport, and I love that it takes me out of a professional setup. I get to play, social men's cricket. I love it. I love to see people happy. I think puts a smile on my face.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest, the community aspect and the social aspect of cricket, of like having a barbecue after a game or
Yeah.
a couple of pints. Oh, and just like having chat with the opposition. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Miss that so much.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Mhm.
I just, I'm here for it. That's why.
What is crossing the line though, in terms of when men sledge women in
Oh,
cricket?
I think for me, nothing on the pitch really crosses a line. Like, kind of I don't really care. Kind of goes in one ear out the other.
But that's you
Um,
though, I'd imagine. Like
yeah, it's
or is
just
that
me.
something you've
I
spoken with
think,
other teammates who've been through that stage?
yeah, I would say, I think the thing that kind of crosses the line is when you're like, oh, you're a lady playing, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? And it's like, oh, that's like kind of like, oh, I can't control that. Like, yes, I'm a lady playing in this, what do you want me to do about it? You want me to
Mhm.
like what? Like, it is what it is,
Yeah.
I think that's just frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
and just annoying.
Yeah.
Um, but what crosses a line is,
What is
I
that
think it's
line?
just being inappropriate.
Mhm.
I think just being inappropriate, and um, you know what I'm trying to say in that sense, right? Like, I think that's crossing a line. But anything else,
Mhm.
like even the whole, you're because I had a few comments come my way about being a lady in the league, maybe two or three,
Okay.
but you know, one person would say it seriously, and then everyone else would attack this one guy and be like, "What are you doing?" So
Mhm.
there's we don't talk about that enough, but there is so much supportive
Yeah.
men. They're not all bad. There's only one guy who
Mhm.
just ruins it for everyone, right? I'm really, really all about equality. So
Yeah.
I think the women's game is just as good as the men's game just as good as the
Yeah.
women's.
That's a great
That's just how I've
perspective.
been.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so funny because I remember batting, and I remember this girl. She was standing at point, and I was
Yeah.
short outside off. I'm like, I am gonna leather this thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great cut shot, and she got a hand to it, and then it went for boundary. But she was like, "Oh my god, like it hurt her." And I'm like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" Right? That was my. I was like, "Oh no!" But then I'm like, "Mate, you're playing men's cricket. It is what it is."
This is what you've asked for.
And it, yeah, and I
Absolutely.
was like, it's not even men's cricket. Like you be playing against who's a South African cricketer, women's cricketer who's so super strong. Or was it New Zealand? I can't. What am I thinking of? But
Sophie Devine?
no, no. But this cricketer, she hits the ball so hard, and I'm like,
Shamari Atapatu, because she is
Sri
like
Lanka, right?
insanely. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sri
it
Lanka.
could have been. I just remember the South African jersey, but anyway, the keeper, Lizzie Lee.
Oh, no,
No,
that's an Australian
oh, is she there?
big bash player. She just pumps it. She
No,
hits a ball.
that's what came to my mind. I'm like, if she hit it, it's gonna be so hard anyways. Regardless of whether it's
Yeah.
men's or women's, it's hard. It's hard. So I'm like,
Yeah,
nah,
yeah, yeah.
she get over it. And then I discontinued batting. But initially, I was
Yes.
like, what have I done? But if you could write a memo to club captains in the UK or New Zealand or like most of the test playing nations about integrating women, what
Yeah.
would it say?
A memo.
Yeah, it's like a or something you if you a message you want to communicate across.
Um Great. Like, I don't know, just like let it happen, man. Like, it's chill.
Yeah.
A memo. I don't know. What would you say?
What do I say?
Yeah. I want to know, because I don't know what I would say at all.
I love this. Flip the script. So I think equality is something which is huge. Like it's a game for everyone.
Mhm.
Just because you're a man, or not specifically to a captain, but like in general, I think men think that it's their game to an extent. Or I've come across people who are like, "This is our game. Like, why are women playing?" And this is just
Mm,
from my experience. I'm not speaking on behalf of all men, but that's what I've experienced.
right.
Quality is huge. If you do not discriminate talent by gender,
Hmm.
that's the big one that comes straight to mind because I've noticed I'm like, okay, this cricketer, she's a gun player. It doesn't matter if she plays for a men's side or women's side, she's gonna do well in both.
Mm-hmm.
But don't discriminate just because she's a woman or a lady and be like, no, you can't play men's cricket because of that. Because there are
Yeah,
a lot of traditional thinking people still that exist.
absolutely. And that is what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
I had probably one of the worst encounters in my first week.
that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what's the worst story? I think.
Oh, the worst. Oh my goodness, worst story. Okay, the first week, first time ever being in England,
Mhm.
21. I'm sitting down, and this is something that was really interesting because I
That's
was
3
at
years
the
ago,
club
2 years ago.
3 years ago. I'm at a club. All these guys are sitting next to me. There's a South African pro as well that's here. And, I've just met the first team and we're having a pint and we're chilling. Okay. This guy with like a little hat and a dog, walks in. He's about in his 60s. And he walks in and he handshakes every single guy on the table except for me. So I'm going, okay, that's fine. I'm a lady, I mean, I can give a handshake. I don't care. but, I understand, And then he kind of just introduces himself to the South African professional. And he goes, yeah, I'm here as the overseas, blah, blah. And then he looks at me and he goes, and what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm the overseas pro New Zealander, for them. And he goes, an overseas female cricketer has been hired. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, and I bet you I could bowl you out first ball.
You said that?
And yeah, I said that because that's just how I just laughed it off because humor is my way of getting out of real uncomfortable situations. But he literally said, I can't believe, a middle-aged white man has hired you. And I was, and seriously, I was the whole first team, all men were there and let it happen. All let him say this. And to this day, I can't believe no one ever stuck up to the situation, except for when my chairman, who is amazing, comes in and realized what this guy had said and was like, what the, and did something about it. And that's something that was really cool. But yeah, it was one I actually had to walk away and I was kind of crying about it. It was actually not a great experience, but it is what it is.
You said it is what it is then. Do you feel like
Yep.
that's acceptance or survival?
Fantastic question. I think it's just accepting, what it is. There is nothing I could have done in that moment to have changed his thought process. And at the end of the day, that's his emotion, not mine. And I always talk about emotion versus logic for me. And logically, I can't control what he thinks and what he says. So therefore, don't put his emotion on mine. It's his opinion. Move on. Yeah.
And again, you just said emotion versus logic. I keep dealing with this idea of when to be emotional and when to be rational. How do you recognize what to use when in terms of in a situation, whether that's cricket or anything else?
Yeah, I think with cricket, I for example, my social media. I think, when I post videos of me batting or bowling, I have a lot of criticism come my way. And it's always, you know, quite horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of the time where I could, take that on and put into gameplay and put a lot of pressure on performance, etc. But really logically speaking, again, I put myself out there on social media and people are going to comment and that's okay. It's their thoughts, their feelings. It's irrelevant to kind of my journey and the process involved. So, I am very much about, in that sense, not allowing people's emotions to get to me because I don't need that in my life. It's just so irrelevant to where I'm going to go, which is way further than them. And I have to have that kind of thought process in order to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's such a shitty story or experience to have been through, right? With that,
Yeah.
what? And obviously, you want to break the mold for women and stuff. So, if part of your story is to break that mold, what do you want
Yeah.
to potentially, what do you want the next girl walking behind you to inherit from that experience?
From the experience in terms of what I do about my
Not
game
the game,
or
how
what
did
do you
you,
mean?
when you said you tackle that bloke, right? That old man, that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think for me, it's just I'm really open about this story, and the reason is because I want people to know that it still exists and it is out there. And the way I've dealt with it is I'm happy, I'm healthy, and it has never ever affected me. And I think that's the element I want people questioning. I want them figuring out why. And the reality is that whole emotion versus logic concept is so important, especially when you're a female in sport. I just think it's so important to not even worry about, people, humans that are going to criticize you. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person that can control where you will go. So therefore, what's relevant is your actions, your thoughts, and no one else. And I want girls, especially young girls and boys, to follow that process because there's so much that life can give you. It's such a precious and beautiful world. It's, if we just think in this way. So
Why do you say it's important for females in female sport to have that decision making between emotion and logic?
Well, I think unfortunately we live in a world where, the quality in women's sport is still growing, right? So therefore we're gonna have a lot of people um critiquing us and criticizing us, especially on social media. And there's a lot of memes around women that play sport as well. So that exists. And we cannot allow that to get to
Mhm.
us. We just prove them wrong.
Mhm. No, absolutely. It's such a savage world, right? Like
Yeah,
even
it
with the
is savage.
podcast, like I got trolled for gentrification the other day. I was like, what? What the heck? Yeah, and
Gentrification.
turns out it was someone I kind of knew, but like the account was very
Oh,
anonymous, but I kind of figured out who it was, and I was just like, really,
who it
it's like
was.
really, mate, like why?
Interesting.
But the thing is, I just felt sorry for them and moved on. But a lot of people don't have
Yeah,
that ability to do that, right? If you read something, I'm sure you've experienced it as well. You read a comment and it just gets you. That and
yeah,
hence I feel like people carry a lot of baggage in that sense,
yes,
and there's a lot of
for
load
sure.
that can sort of break you down. So Lena Horne, who used to be a an American singer, I think she said once that it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. And that sort of, what are your thoughts on that? Like it,
I love
yeah.
that. I'm about that for sure. And I think that again comes back to my
Mhm.
concept we talk about, like how you carry that. For me, you said to me, I'm sure you've seen a comment. You said, have you seen a comment that's really affected you? Like, no, never. But I've had comments that have been like really bad, and I've gone, damn, if I was insecure right now and I wasn't so emotionally mature, this would really affect me, but really it did not. It's funny. The only thing you can do is laugh because I actually feel bad for people like that. I've said that multiple times before. It's just, how can you be, it's the world's not that bad, for you to make comments like that.
It comes
It's
from a
funny.
place of insecurity from them. That's the only thing I okay,
It is.
you haven't figured yourself
Yeah.
out. You're in this position either probably because of jealousy and all these frustrations coming out. And that's how I see it. But
Yeah.
yeah, the quote is it's a great reference to, when you talk about how you internalize that moment, especially let's say with that old man that you experienced, and then you just move forward from it and you're like, okay, no, it's done, kind of a thing.
It's just
Yeah.
done. Yeah. His thoughts, his emotions got nothing to do with
Hmm.
me. Absolutely nothing.
No. Hmm.
Yeah.
I want to discuss your injury. You recently got injured, right?
I
So,
did.
and injuries obviously don't hurt you just physically. Um, they challenge your
Yeah.
identity sometimes. What
Sure. Yep.
happened? How'd you get injured?
I am. I can't remember. I was opening the bowling at Eden Park in Auckland. Bowled this, horrid delivery. And someone's come down the wicket and smashed it right back at me, and I've gone to catch it, but it's come at me quicker than what I thought, and it's hit me just here on my hand, and it's gone and broken my finger just across here. Um, and what happened, it broke here was considered a wrist sprain, but a finger break. So it was very
Wrist
bizarre. But I could move
sprain,
my fingers.
finger break.
Yeah, so it's right there on the joint bone, like
Oh, okay,
across.
gotcha.
And so when it had hit my hand, I kind of was like, oh, that hurt. And I've gone on the ground, and I'm seriously, you will not see me do that. I usually shake my hand off and I kind of just moved on. But this, I was like thinking, God, that hurt. Gone back to
But it
my
hit you at the back,
to my run
or
up.
was it hit you here? Where did it hit?
So it's hit me
Oh, okay.
here, and then it's a break, and it's come around
Oh, must have
here.
been
It's
hit
bizarre.
hard. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, she middled it. She was middling it
Mm.
that day, and that's it.
Who was the batter?
And I, Izzy
Okay.
Gaze, the white
Yeah.
fern. Yeah, she's brilliant. Seriously, brilliant keeper batter. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of revenge from her because I got her out caught and bowled on third ball in an opening over the game before. And then she did that, and I went, "Oh yeah, nah, it's good. She's great. She's brilliant." But I had come back to my run up, and I went, "Oh, this is sore. Okay, just move on." And I just bowled my last 3 deliveries. Not thinking too much of it. My hand was, um, it's like stone. That's how I describe it. The whole hand was just stone, and I just, yeah, it was very stiff and not great. I've gone to point, to go back to my fielding position, and this girl's middling the ball, and as she's hit it, I've gone, that's going to come at me. I'm not going to put my hand to it because something's wrong with my hand. So I've run off straight away. I didn't even tell anyone. I've just run off because I've gone, this is not okay. Went to physio, and he kind of let me hang out for a bit, and I'm like sobbing. I'm like really upset. And I've turned around to the physio. I've gone, dude, I need to go and get an x-ray now. I'm not watching the team. I need to go get an x-ray now. There's something wrong with my hand. It needs to be fixed now. I need someone to tell me that it's okay. And I'm like, this is my first ever injury, ever. I've never come off the field ever in my career. Never rolled an ankle, never, never. Like, it's not how I've ever been. Got an x-ray, tried to do a handstand to prove that I was...
Sorry, what?
It was not... I did a handstand in the changing rooms to prove
that
I didn't need any...
You actually managed to do it?
I did it, yeah. I was putting pressure on my hand like this, and I was going like this. I was like, see, it's fine, but I was in pain. Yeah, you're like,
no.
I was like, keep going, it's fine. Swollen. I've got the funniest photo as well of it, actually. And I got told, yeah, you've broken it. And I've gotten up and I've gone, no, I haven't broken it. You're wrong. That's not right. And I'm just like
absolutely
repeatedly
in denial of the fact.
Yeah, and I said, I said, well, that can't happen because I need to play in the next couple of days. We've got the final coming up, and I was spiraling, and the doctor just staring at me, and I'm like, God, I'm so dramatic right now. But I just love the game so much that I just can't believe this one thing that's, gets me out of the team. I was fine.
No,
like I was fine.
Fractures are such an I've had my fair shares of wicketkeeper, as you could tell. Not fun at all. But how long were you out for then?
So yeah, I was told 6 to 8 weeks. But the bone had healed within 4 weeks. So I started bowling at week 5, which was bad.
It wasn't your bowling hand though, was it?
It wasn't, but I started training in week 5 of recovery. I was told not to, but I just did it anyway because I hated not doing anything for so long. But week 8 was when I was finally training and doing things, and I could then hold it back. Week 9, kind of, yeah, it just, so about week 10 is when I was at 100%. Yeah.
How did it feel during those 4 weeks to not essentially be an athlete for a while?
Yeah, so the first week was horrible. I think it's on my YouTube video. I've got a YouTube video of me getting back in the hotel room, and I'm fully not okay. So I'm not there. I'm in a complete negative mental filter. I'm not too sure if you've heard of that saying before, but it's like pretty much I'm walking around, I don't see a tree with green leaves and blossoms. I'm seeing it like it's dead tree. So everywhere I was, every person I was surrounded by, everything was just negative, and I was so angry at everyone and everything. And I just, especially because it was fine, I had no pain at all. It was a weird injury. I couldn't train against my will. And I train so much that it's actually ridiculous. I bowled, I think, 30 overs before a T20 in January. Like that, and that's, I don't know why I did it. I just wanted to, because that's just how I am. So it was horrible.
It's one of those, right? Like when you get concussed, the first initial couple of weeks you feel a bit weird with your head, but then you're fine, but internally you're not healed yet. Often
You're
with
not
fractures,
healed,
like
yeah.
anytime I've had a fracture, I've had a few. I don't like to boast about it, but it's more than 10. So the thing is, you get to a point where you understand that, okay, no, I feel fine, but internally it's not healed yet, which means you just got to play the long-term game. But in terms of the negative filter comment, it's just a negative spiral. What happens, what I've learned is you become your own victim, and you adopt this victim mindset where you're like, oh, why me? I'm screwed. I'm done. And like, all the
Yeah.
worst things are just going to happen to me at the end of the day. So whether
Yeah,
and
for
the,
sure.
being a glass half full kind of person, which you are, all of a sudden you're like, nah, the glass is always half empty, and yeah, I'm just done for. That's it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
retire in a week. you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely, the first day or so I thought things are going to change. I'm not going to be able to do my handspring anymore. I'm not going to be, so like it was pretty bad. But then day 3 of being injured, the, team gets announced. I see the email. I'm looking at it and I've gone, Mum, I didn't make the team. And Mum's like, Zara, you're injured. You've broken your hand, dude. And I've gone, but I'm not in it, Mum. And I'm just crying. I get on the phone with my nutritionist and I'm like, right, okay, I want this to heal. You need to give me everything. Let's have a meeting. She's like, yeah, let's sort this out. So straight away, although I was really upset, I was really keen to get straight back into it. Week 2, I didn't even cross my mind. I just kind of, I had this awful white cast on me, and I went to Wellington Hospital and they said, Zara, you need surgery. And I've gone, I won't be having surgery, actually. And then they're like, actually, you don't need it. You're fine. It's just like, yeah, no, it was like up and down. Week 2 was up and down. But
Was there ever a moment
yeah.
during this phase when the mental struggle outweighed the physical in terms of what was going through the uncertainties?
Um,
Or do you feel like you had a good grasp on it pretty quick?
I'm really, really proud of how I was mentally throughout the process and physically. I was so lucky, like Cricket Wellington completely supported me in that moment, in the sense of like my nutritionist Becky was insanely cool and insanely good for me. And then my S&C coach Nathan, he, we had bars set up so that it was on my shoulders, but I didn't have to grip it with my hands, and I could do my squats and my lower body stuff. And, and he set a program up for me straight away, because, I needed that, for, physically I needed that and mentally. And also it was a great opportunity to realize, like my true friends, the people that actually care about me, and be surrounded by the ones I love. But what was really difficult was this persona that I have on Instagram is so positive and uplifting. I had to somehow continue with that while being in a really like negative kind of mindset with cricket. And like my relationship with cricket, I was just so angry at what was happening. So it was like, but I'm trying to be positive and uplifting and fun loving at the same time. So yeah, it's a difficult
That's
time.
interesting because why were you so angry at cricket? Because yeah, okay, sure,
Oh,
it
it's,
happened during the game, and you weren't able to play or train as you would have liked. Why
yeah.
the anger?
The game, like the reality is in that moment, and I rewatch the video all the time of this, injury. And I've looked at it and I go, it was actually completely and like utterly out of my control. I learned something today that was quite interesting, that like the human body does a powerful thing, and that's work on instinct, especially in cricket. So if short ball comes at you at your neck, you're actually most likely gonna either get out of the way of it or put bat on ball naturally. And we might flinch, but our human body is just so powerful, right? So on instinct in that moment, I've reacted very well to that ball. I've just mistimed it by like a little bit, and that's what made me angry. Is it was a tiny, tiny just error, and it then happened to be quite a big injury, a bone break.
Yeah, you're right. You can't do. There's only
Yeah,
so much you can do in that split second, especially
yes,
once caught and
absolutely.
bowled. You have like less than
Yeah,
half a second to react, given how quick the
yeah,
ball comes in. And I did watch
definitely.
that video, and I was like, yeah, there's nothing much you could have done about it.
Nothing, nothing. Like there's nothing. I instinctively was always going to react to it in that way, and it is. So that's what got me angry. But seriously, when you say it only got me really angry for like a week, 2 weeks, I was pretty quick to kind of move on, because I mean, quite frankly, I would rather put my time and energy into other things. Like I was straight onto work. I went to office and I was working nearly 40-hour weeks, just like, with my one hand, like typing, getting it all done. Like I was,
Your energy
I was with
had to
my
go
family.
somewhere, from what I gather.
Yeah, I had to do something, and I was at the gym all the time and I caught up with all my mates and, there was just so much time to just reset and refresh. And, I wrote down in my diary, I've got my diary here of pretty much going like, yep, you're injured. It is what it is. Let's accept it. Now, what's the next phase? What do you truly want? And that was, I'm going to England again. This is what my program's going to look like. This is what I will do. And now I am training unbelievable hours because of what's happened. So I'm quite glad it's happened. Do you know what I mean? Because I've completely changed 180 in terms of where I want to go and who I want to be, So it's cool.
Dan Carter, in his book The Art of Winning, describes this as when he got injured. I think he was gonna, just before COVID, he got injured, and the 2011 World Cup when New Zealand actually won. I don't think Dan Carter
Yeah.
was part of it, or no, he wasn't. And the reason is because he got injured, and he said when that
Yeah.
happened, he just broke, because obviously you want to play for your country, you want to play for the All Blacks, you want to
Yeah.
go win the cup, right? And he worked with Kerry Evans, who's a very psychiatrist, and they basically deciphered this logic where it's like, okay, give yourself a dwelling period. Okay, you're injured, give yourself 24 hours. You want to go burst into flames, you want to go cry, do it. Give it what for some people it's 24 hours, for others it could be like 5 minutes, right? The range varies.
5 minutes.
But give
Yeah,
yourself that time,
absolutely.
let it out. But then once that's done, it's back to work. You're still alive, you're still
Absolutely.
going, go
Yeah.
train. What's the best way? What would So the question he would ask is, what would an All Black legend do in my position right now? Okay, they're injured, they're gonna have the best rehab they can, best nutrition that they can, best family time that they can. And that's how he sort of overcame that. And then, yeah,
Alright. Yeah.
2015
Same.
came about.
Exact same. I got a when I got injured and I was in my hotel room and I was, I got into my Pete Alexander jammies and I was, like my fancy jammies and I'm just crying and I've called the first person I've called is my coach, Dave, in England because it's nighttime, right? And he goes, what's wrong? And I'm like, you're not going to believe it, but I've broken my hand. Um, and he's going, what happened? And I explained it and I'm like crying and he's going, okay, it's fine. None of our training goes out the window. And I'm like, it's gone. He's like, no. Okay, Xara, you got 24 hours.
I
You
mean,
got
okay.
24 hours. Yeah. To have a cry, to get upset, to get angry. I want you to get mad. I want you to let it all out. To have that moment. But then the next day, when you get on that plane back, you go straight to Wellington Hospital. We think, okay, how do we get this fixed quicker? You go to your nutritionist, you do this, you do your sports psychologist, you do S&C. This is what we're going to do. And you and me, we're going to sit down, we're going to catch up and figure out a program. And he is just my hero in that sense because, to have someone so structured and so process driven, such as him, just helps me in like so much. We're so similar in that sense. I just needed a reminder, reassurance, and yeah, like Dan Carter's story, very similar, just kind of moved on because I had so many other things to look forward to. I had a structure in place, it was great.
Sometimes
It was
it's a
fine.
blessing in disguise, right? Like, who knows?
It
You could
is.
have, I don't know, tripped over, rolled your ankle, even longer. I don't know. Anything could have happened. So
Absolutely.
everything is a blessing in
Yeah.
disguise. And plus the downtime, I used to be the same, but I started understanding if it happened, it happened. And now, okay, if I have to chill out, I'm gonna chill out. It doesn't, and
Chill
that's
out.
that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but that's seems like a widely
It's
known
cool.
fact in New Zealand, I guess, with all your coaches. Well, your coaches in England, so I guess within the sporting world. But um, I came across an article where basically your mom just absolutely gave everything on you. And I read this great story about your mom, Andrea, I think.
Andrea, yeah.
Andrea, okay, not Andrea, okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
good.
you beating a classmate in a juggling competition when you were like a kid.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
not because you knew how, but because you practiced every day until you nailed it. Like, what? I love it, but I'm so curious. Where does this kind of fire come from? Not just because obviously people see on social media, they see your celebrations in cricket, right? But your mom in the article says you've had it ever since you were a kid. So where does that kind of fire come from? Is it about proving people wrong? Is it competition? Is it you just hate being compared? Like, what's the source of it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would argue, and I've known this for a long time, that I've almost got like a main character complex. I've always just wanted, like, I seriously love attention, and I love people to watch me, and I love to entertain people. Like, that's just how I've always been. But I've had so many people, while I've been this extrovert, loud, caring being, a lot of people have really put that down, and say, you're not going to get where you want to get to, Zara. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We just watch. And I go about and do things like the juggling thing is hilarious because, I had someone in class, juggling oranges, and he did it for about, I think it was like 8 minutes, juggling, and everyone's like, wow, massive claps. And I couldn't juggle. And I was going, oh, God, cool for you, bro. I remember just like twiddling my thumbs going, I'm going to go home and I'm going to practice every
Was it
day.
two
So I grabbed
oranges or
three
three?
oranges,
Was he
three
three?
oranges, and I kept going, going, and going. And it was leading up to a juggling competition who would win like $10 or something. I can't even
That's a lot of
remember.
money at
And
that age.
yeah, a lot of money back then. I was 12. And I've walked in. I think it was 2 weeks later, we had this competition, and everyone was expecting this guy to win, right, after juggling 8 minutes, and I've just come in and bet him like that. He got quite nervous, I think, because I was like, yeah, I've been practicing, I'm ready, and yeah. So, and the handspring celebration is also comes from that as well. So a girl in my class could do a handspring, and people made a corridor for her, being like, yeah. And I was like watching this corridor with people, like, what are you doing? Like, that's so weird. And then I went home, practiced the handspring, practiced the back bend every day, did no gymnastics. Mum wouldn't let me. And I figured it out outside. Mum would tell you easily if you had her on this podcast. She would just be like, I went psycho. And I showed everyone. I said, guys, I've done no training. Watch me now,
But why though? Is it more about wanting to be the best in this case, or wanting to be seen as less, or not wanting to be seen as less?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be the number one, the best in everything I do.
Like
Everything.
if I'm walking around in the school corridor and I see someone do a handstand, or like a handstand, was it you said?
Handspring,
Handspring,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'll just be like,
yeah,
that's cool. And I might just walk away. But for
yeah,
you, you look at it, you're like,
yeah.
no, watch me now.
Watch me, yeah. I mean, yeah, like
Interesting. Okay.
I can do that too. I work hard. That's the
Hmm.
one thing about me that I loved, is that I actually put my head down. I just work. I just get it
Yeah.
done. If someone says, Zara, what does my coach say? Zara, you're not good enough yet. Go play men's cricket. I'm like, fine, I will. Okay, fine, I will, and I'll play that and more and do more. So yeah, it's just how I've always been.
To that
Yeah,
point, there's a very famous podcast in India called Raj, and Raj
yeah,
Shamani, and I saw this reel the other day where he was saying the most successful people in the world have one common trait, which is when they achieve success, they work. When they're going through shit, they work. When they're sitting idle doing nothing, they work. That's it. They get it done. Whether you have $1 million in your bank account versus if you have zero, you do the same thing. You work. Whether it's taking 10 wickets, maybe you've scored a century, you've taken a fiver, get back, get in the net. You work.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I would counter argue, you got to enjoy. You got to celebrate the little moments a little bit, and then get back to work.
Yes,
Into that.
absolutely. I mean, for me, I have like a kind of, this is really bad, but I have a 5 minute rule, like where when I have really bad performances, I kind of go 5 minutes, think about it, break it down, write it down, move on. If I have a really good moment, 5 minutes, write it down, be real happy, show off a little bit to my family, then move on. So I think that's kind of how I've been, because that's cool, but I've got somewhere way further up where I need to go. So I need to work 10 times harder than what that is. More will come. Cool. That's a part of the process, the journey, you know. But you ask coaches, I used to be up here high energy and I could never go down, and now I'm I'm finding I've got that little middle grounding where I do have high energy, can come back here, low energy, can come back here.
You know how to regulate that when required.
Yeah, I'm definitely becoming better at that. It definitely doesn't come across like that, especially on social media. But it's a process, a mental method of mine that I'm really trying to like dial into because it's so important, especially when you're on TV and having so much success and also failing as much.
Yeah, I
So
think you should add that as
yeah.
part of your content, which is a lot of the mental side of what a professional goes through, because
Yes.
you are vulnerable on
Yeah.
social media anyway. So that's
Anyway,
things.
yeah.
Might be interesting to see, I don't know, for the folks that are serious, apart from the entertainment side, just to see what up here,
Yes.
what do you
Yeah.
write down before a game, right? What do you write down after a game? Is it affirmations? Is it tactics? Is it,
Yeah.
what do you, that'd be very curious, I think, for the audience to get I would be interested just purely like, okay, if I'm going into a corporate meeting, I could do the same thing, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of value I
Absolutely.
feel that's out there.
Yeah.
All right. To wrap it
Totally
up,
agree.
it's rapid fire
Okay.
time. What?
Oh gosh, I'm so awful at
Okay,
these. Okay, that's fine. Let's go.
75. Let's see. So,
Oh,
what's
good.
one non-negotiable in your daily routine right now?
Setting an agenda.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's the nerdiest thing. But yeah, setting an
And do you
agenda.
make that agenda the day before or the day of?
So it depends. It depends. If I'm having a really early morning, like usually 6:30 a.m. start, it'll be the night before. If it's 8 a.m., I'll 6 a.m. set an agenda.
All right. Next.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
You deserve to be here. Yeah. That's that's real deep. I was 17, I debuted for the Blaze, and my captain turned around and I bowled a wide, kept bowling wides, and she's like, you deserve to be here. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do actually, because I work hard. Okay, fine. And I just, so it's the best thing. I remind myself every day when something really cool happens, I deserve it.
So, what's next for you, both on and off the field? What's happening?
What's next for me?
On and off the field.
Oh, to express myself as much as possible, and trust my instincts.
Fair enough. The last one is, you get a lot of DMs on Insta and your socials about marriage proposals, right? Do you want to set the record straight on here?
What, that I've said no to every single one of them?
You tell us. You tell the audience.
I've had a few, and that's, a no.
Okay, they want to know why no.
Because I have a
there
man.
You go.
Because I have a partner.
There you go, lads. Stop.
I've been very open about this. I just don't post about him. Because he'll get slammed. That's why.
No, I know. The only reason was because, as I said, I joined the live stream that you did the other day. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I couldn't stop cringing looking at those comments. Literally, like, for the audience listening, 9 out of 10 comments were like, "Will you marry me?" And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And then you go back and see your posts and stuff. Same thing. Doesn't stop. But anyway, so you've set the record straight, guys. It's not looking good for you.
I got a man.
Stop proposing. Leave her alone. Just watch her for the cricket and enjoy it. But
just enjoy the cricket.
Yeah. But no, Xara, it's been an absolute blast having you on Decoding Wisdom. Really, really. There's a lot of things we decoded about mindset, about facing adversity, making a stride in a game that's predominantly for men, but how you're making waves. And from my side, just wish you all the best. And in England, when you get back to New Zealand, hope to see you in the White Ferns jersey one day. But love the energy. It's completely, that energy is insane. But yeah, just keep it going, and thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. I enjoyed our chats. It was very good, and hopefully people can take something away from it as well.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I really hope you've taken something away from it to implement in your life. If you're enjoying Decoding Wisdom and listening to it on Spotify, make sure to follow us on Spotify and give us a good rating as well. And if you're watching it on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And we'd love to gauge with you guys. Thank you so much once again, and I hope to see you guys next week.